Across history, moments of great change have called for great leadership. Today, we stand at one of those moments. Generative AI is reshaping our economies, our societies, and our ways of life. And the Caribbean must lead with wisdom, courage, and vision. Over the years, we have been guided by giants. Our global ambassador, Professor Bob Garrett, Professor Mervyn King, Professor Charlotte Vallet, Nandi Mandela, and Professor John Elkington. As generative AI reshapes our world, governance must not just adapt, it must lead. We are thrilled to welcome Fatima Abu Salem of the University of Beirut, our keynote speaker, as we feature a week of powerful conversations, fresh ideas, and collective action. Over 5 days, more than 50 Caribbean leaders will join forces to adapt, to change, and to shape it. To build governance that is ethical, resilient, and deeply human. We thank our sponsors for standing with us on this journey. Governance Week 2025, Governance in the Age of Generative AI.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Governance Live here at the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute. I'm Kamla Rampersad, the Silva. As most of you who follow our live stream know by now, this is our precursor to Governance Week 2025. And Governance Week this year is going to be focused, as you saw from the video, on governance in the age of generative AI. So much is changing in our external environment. And we want to be sure that our directors are as prepared as much as possible to be able to guide their organizations well. So this being our 6th year of conference, we want to thank all of our sponsors who have been so generous in their support for Governance Week 2025. Started with our platinum sponsor coming from Trinidad and Tobago, Massey Holdings Limited. It's their 2nd year as our platinum sponsor, and we are deeply appreciative. We have 2 silver sponsors this year, Trident Trust from the British Virgin Islands, and we have First Citizens Bank in Trinidad and Tobago. And this year, we welcome 6 bronze sponsors to Governance Week, 5 of whom are from Trinidad and Tobago. We have Republic Bank Limited, we have PwC Trinidad and Tobago, Angostura Trinidad and Tobago, B-Mobile coming in as a first-time sponsor and also a first-time sponsor, Info Systems Limited. And we are also extremely pleased to welcome again from Belize, G.A. Rowe and Sons, a bronze sponsor here with us for Governance Week 2025. We have been sharing a lot on the fact that we have over 50 speakers from around the Caribbean region who will be dissecting this whole area of artificial intelligence and what it means for organizations in the Caribbean region. And specifically, we have targeted looking at our C-suite and our boards of directors, not necessarily IT experts or technocrats, because it is our directors themselves who need to understand this changing environment. And because it's evolving, it means there's no one answer, there's no one right fix. We need to be discussing and looking at the range of perspectives that would allow us to be as prepared as possible for this new environment. And so today, we are very pleased to welcome a very special guest with us who will be sharing his thoughts on governance practices as it's evolving here. And this is Mr. Marlon Yarde. Marlon is the Chief Executive Officer for the Barbados Stock Exchange. And not only is he not a stranger to CCGI, he is in fact deeply connected with us, having served as one of our directors for 10 years at the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute. Marlon, it's such a pleasure to have you this morning.
Thank you, Kamala. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. I think you'll really get my direct thoughts because I wasn't able to prepare as I wished for this event, so you'll get it uncut and straight from the heart and mind from me. So, but I'm glad for the opportunity. As you said, I've been associated with the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute for some years. I think this is about 2 years. I'm off the board now, I think. But the experience with CCGI has helped me to continue in my own role as a director on several boards now. I'm a director on all the boards within the Barbados Stock Exchange Group, the Barbados Stock Exchange, its subsidiary, the Barbados Central Securities Depository, and a subsidiary of the BCSDI is the BCSDI Custodian and Trust Services, Inc. So that is a great deal of experience within the group itself. And then outside of the Barbados Stock Exchange, I sit on, I'm the president of BIBA, so I'm basically chairman of that board. And being president of BIBA has allowed me the opportunity to sit on the board of Invest Barbados, which is a government agency that promotes Barbados and brings investment into Barbados. And also being the president of BIBA, I sit on the Barbados Private Sector Association board. So that gives me a wide scope of experience seeing different boards work and how they do things. And because of that wide spread of experience, it allows me to be able to improve on my own skills as time goes on. I mean, strange enough, just before this meeting, I was because one of our subsidiary companies, the Barbados Central BCSDA Custodian Trust Service Inc., is a trustee for bonds for many companies in the market. I had to chair. I just came out of chairing a bondholders meeting to make some changes to their trust deed and for that particular bond. So it doesn't stop. And then I got your call reminding me of this meeting.
Yeah, well, we are very happy that you have made time on your schedule for us, Marlon, because I'm pleased to see the wide range of things that you're involved in Barbados, because it means that you would be able to give us a nice sense of the pulse of what's happening within the country there.
Yes.
So I know you said that you have not had time to review and prepare for this, so this is a totally uncut version. So
Uncut.
yes, let's discuss therefore your thoughts on the whole evolution of the changing environment. One of the major issues we have seen, experts have said there's need for a regulatory framework to look at the advances in technology and particularly artificial intelligence. Yesterday, we had a really excellent interview with Yana Samuels of Jamaica, and Yana spoke about there being governance guidelines for the use of artificial intelligence for their organizations, which they then relay to their distributors as well. Are you seeing directors in Barbados having similar concerns with respect to certain regulations in place for use of the technology?
I've not come across that as yet in Barbados. What I can tell you is that, I mean, I just recently signed up to attend a conference hosted by seminar workshop hosted by the University of West Indies here in Barbados, Cave campus, a workshop they usually hold every year, Caribbean Commercial Law Workshop. And this year is going to be held in Panama, the 20th to the 23rd. I don't remember the exact dates, but sometime in July. And the key, all that is they're talking about for this law workshop is AI, how it affects employment law, how it affects corporate law, every aspect of commercial law that is out there. They're having sessions on it. I'm sorry, that conference wasn't last week. You really prepared me for this session. So we're seeing that people are talking about it in the legal profession and also from an academic perspective too. There's, how people can use AI as it relates to preparing their papers and their reports and their academic works, doctoral theses, etc., how that is being done. But I've not quite seen it yet affecting how boards are operating in Barbados. I know, for example, and I can only talk from my personal experience. I'm a keen supporter of AI, but what I've learned a long time ago is that you don't accept everything that the software tells you. The I have experience in, like, for example, ChatGPT, Jenny AI, Perplexity is another one I sometimes use. So there's, there's wide exposure. But the thing is, I believe from a board's perspective, we need to start thinking about it. We need to, any tool that you use, um, 20 years ago when people were doing board meetings, they didn't have the technology that we have today, but we have it now and we use it. But it's to use these things in an ethical and what should I say, respectful? Respectful, yes, in that you make sure that you give credit to other people's work. But you make sure that when you do it, you give credit for work that other people's work, and also you check to make sure that what you're providing to your board, the research you're providing to your board is accurate, is correct. You cross-check and double-check to make sure the information is correct. So we have, as I said, I've not seen it yet being addressed in my experience. I'm not saying it's not happening.
Right.
In my experience, I've not
And,
seen it being addressed yet, but I think it's something we need to look at going forward.
absolutely. And I just want us to elaborate on that last point that you were making, because in as much as we may not yet reach the stage of wanting to draft regulations, we are all aware of the bad actors that exist in the environment as well. So deep fakes is something that ought to be of real concern to
Yeah,
directors and C-suite, because it can hit you directly in your financials if it is that there are not systems in place to be able to identify and prevent bad actors being able to enter into your systems.
yeah.
So have you seen conversations beginning to happen, let's say with BIBA, because being head now of that Barbados International Business Association, you were talking about a lot of organizations who are multinationals. Have they had experiences? There are conversations happening around how do you identify deep fakes? So how do you deal with it?
Yeah, well, what I've been seeing as it relates to deepfake, sometimes people produce videos. We've seen a lot of them, which involves our prime minister. We've seen one or two as it relates to what's happening on our, people creating websites or Instagram accounts or social media accounts using our logo, etc. And we constantly are monitoring these things to make sure that we are on top of these things. Basically our compliance and our business development people are all constantly looking out there to see what's going on. So we are seeing attempts by bad actors to duplicate and replicate what happens in businesses, and also to promote investment opportunities that are just not viable. So we do monitor these things, and when we see them, we report to the social media provider. And again, that is a task in itself. I'm realizing that anybody can put out anything about you, and you have to prove that these people are bad actors. Sometimes you get the impression that they think you might be a bad actor trying to stop legitimate people to do what they're doing. So I'm realizing how difficult it can be to stop these things. But you have to be persistent and persevere and make sure that your organization, be it the exchange that we're responsible for, make sure that they combat these things and are tireless in our efforts. As it relates to what's happening in, for example, the international business arena, um, I haven't heard anything on one or two boards I sit on. There's been attempts to hack the system or do bad things or create false impressions about the organization, and these things are being dealt with either through strengthening of the cybersecurity for the organization, or even putting out notices that this doesn't represent the organization. But again, as you're saying, with the conference I'm attending, it's obvious that it's something that is catching the attention of our legal profession, and also the clients of these legal professionals out there.
Right. So basically, at this stage, Marlon, what you are doing is opening yourself to learning how the environment is unfolding and therefore what may be some of the safeguards being recommended. Because if we look at the stock exchange and the role of the stock exchange itself, do you foresee the need possibly to amend some of your guidelines for listed organizations in terms of validating information, you know, or how exactly these listed companies can prevent misinformation from circulating around the organization?
Well, reviewing of our rules and our guidance is something that we constantly do. And it is something that, all businesses, they're constantly looking to see what they have now and how is it applicable to the environment that we're operating in. So yes, we will continue to review what our rules say, what our guidance says. We will look to see what our regulators is saying in the space too as well, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are in lockstep with our regulators to make sure that we are all saying the same thing and making the same recommendations. And besides, for us to put rules out there in the marketplace, they have to be approved by our regulators. So we would talk with our regulators to see what they're doing, and they would ask us sometimes if we are not aware of something, they would come to us and say, well, are you aware such and such is happening? What are you doing about it? What are your plans to counter these things? So the review of rules and guidance notes, etc., is a continuous exercise. And I do anticipate, and I would never say that I don't see us making these changes, as the market evolves, as technology develops, as new tricks of the trade comes out, you have to at least make change to ensure that people are aware of these issues and that they're doing things to ensure that they counter these measures. What I should also say is that, we have our corporate governance recommendations, and those documents are not static. We need to go back to our corporate governance recommendations, and we're in the process of developing corporate governance codes. We need to look at these things and make sure that they are relevant and they make sense. The thing about legislation, we complain about this all the time as it relates to legislation. Legislation is always catching up. We as stock exchanges, our rules and our guidelines could move a bit faster, but we still have to make sure that we are not outside of our regulatory and legislative framework as we make adjustments. So that's why it's necessary that we keep in close contact with our regulators, making sure that that they are aware of what is happening from our perspective, and we are aware of what is happening from their perspective. So it's an ongoing process. And you know me too, Kamla. I'm a perpetual student. I'm always trying to learn something new and
Yes, and
improve.
I know that you also maintain close relationships with the Jamaica Stock Exchange and the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. So
And
therefore, region, there would be common discussions around how you deal with this environment.
also the Eastern Caribbean Stock Exchange. All of us are good friends. Trevor Blake from ECSC, Eva from TTSC, and Marlene. Only 2 weeks ago we were in St. Lucia attending a conference, and we were all on the same stage. That time we were talking about integration of capital markets in the region. So we're constantly talking and seeing how we can improve things, and we share knowledge and intelligence with each other whenever we get a chance to talk and meet. And if there's something that's going on, I need a better understanding of it, I would call Marlene, I would call Eva, I would call Trevor, and see how we can and see what their perspective is and what they're doing in their market to
Yeah.
improve things and counter any malfeasance or bad actors in the marketplace.
And that's excellent, Marlon, because at the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute, that's the type of networking that we promote, that there be this discussion across the region so that we can share lessons learned and perspective on how
Yeah.
to deal with the changing environment.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a personal question, though, Marlon. As you
Mhm.
say, you're a perpetual student, you're open to learning. I confess that I feel uh, sometimes that this world is a little unfair to people like us because everything is changing constantly.
Yeah.
But someone who is uh, continually looking at the changing environment. Let me ask you, what are you most excited about when it comes to the use of technology and maybe artificial intelligence in particular? I know in the movies we see all these holograms and things that just suddenly can happen. But
Yeah.
for you personally, what are some of the things you are most excited about?
Access to information,
Mm,
access to what is thinking that people have, new thinkings people have out there, and how I can use what I'm learning to improve my own self and the institutions I work with, um, and the people around me. How can I do so? I'm constantly talking to my daughter and say, look, you're young, take advantage of this opportunity. Twice your age, and I still want to learn things, and so that I can improve the situation. And then also too, for me, learning new things helps me to be more reflective on what is going on around me. Reflection is key. And again, as you grow older, you become more reflective. You're less of a gung-ho gunfighter and more of a person who takes your time and plan your moves as you go along. So growing, learning, reflecting, and trying to improve things and improve systems around you, improve the people around you as well.
mhm.
So
So
that's what's exciting. Just learning new stuff and seeing how you can apply it in your own lives and in your own organizations and institutions going forward. I think that is very important. You can't be selfish. You need to be able to develop yourself and other people around you.
So in many ways, it's an exciting world because, as you say, there's so much access to information that allows you to be able to learn a lot about what's happening. But then let me ask you the opposite side of that. What are some of those challenges that would have you most worried? So for instance, in today's world, normally if any of my children are out and I'm not sure if they're in a safe place, you will ask them to share their live location so you can track where they are at constantly. So, you have to always have these systems and safeguards in place to uh, be able to counteract any of the negativity. But are there any particular areas that you see as challenges, things that worries you?
Well, the thing is, the same way people can use information to do good, there are other people out there who are using information and technology to do ill, to harm people, to take advantage of people financially, say through markets, through proposing different types of investment opportunities that are not there. Is being harmed physically to me is just as cruel as being harmed financially. When you take away or you scheme away people's um, financial wealth that they've been building up over their lifetime, and you do that, it creates havoc for people. Particularly as they get closer to retirement. What are they going to do? You can't work forever. You can't keep working forever.
Yeah.
So you know, there's the emotional distress that goes with somebody taking advantage of you financially. Um, and it could even, and we know sometimes that emotional distress moves into the physical distress where you become physically sick as a consequence. So, as I said earlier, just as how people can use the technology and the information, these systems to do good, we have to be wary of the people who are doing the same thing to take advantage. People can go in a bank and rob you, physically, and they can use a computer to do just the same thing, in an esoteric way or in a with not even being physically in front of you. So we have to be aware of these things, and that is what concerns me. And the only way you can counter these things is by getting knowledge, understanding what is going on, and gaining knowledge, trying to learn more, and not be beguiled by people. And then also too, I always said for years, you shouldn't read as a crazy thing, and it sometimes makes us do things that we uh, in other situations we think twice. I always tell people, if you're investing or somebody's offering you something, if it's too good to be true, it's usually too good to be true. So don't be greedy. Don't look at the merits of any investment opportunity, of any opportunity, and say, does this make sense? Why is this somebody offering me 15 or 20% on return on something when the market is offering 3, 4%? You're taking on more risk than you need to take on, or you're being hoodwinked into doing something that you shouldn't be doing. So investigate and use the same AI to help you understand what somebody's offering you, and make informed decisions about the direction you're going in as it relates to your investment opportunities and what you take on. Don't take on risks, or don't be very wary of people who are offering you things that are substantially above, or giving you returns substantially above what the market is offering. And then the other thing I always tell people too is, when people come to you with these propositions, always ask the question, who's regulating this thing? Who 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 is looking out for the investor, for the marketplace? And if they can't give you an answer, or they can't tell you which regulatory body they're registered with or licensed with, you don't want to deal with them. And if they're talking about somebody outside your jurisdiction, who the regulator outside your jurisdiction is concerned about the people in their jurisdiction. They really don't not concerned about you in a foreign jurisdiction. There might be some instances that they are, where they can work with one another to counter cross-border transactions or cross-border frauds, but they are concerned with their marketplace. And again, be wary when persons are offering you returns that are unreasonable, and they can't tell you who is regulating the particular product or market. Don't be greedy. Stay
Yes.
far away from these things. And again, the technology, generative AI, allows you to investigate things, cross-check things, to make sure that this makes sense. Ask your generative AI, what is Joe Blow Investments Corporation? Who are they, and what do they represent? What about their products? Ask questions. I do it pretty often. I just start talking with ChatGPT or Perplexity and ask questions, and they give me answers, and I cross-check to make sure what they're saying is the thing. So when they tell me something, I might go on Google Scholar or Google search and say, well, help me understand this better, and make sure that the information that you're being given correlates what you've learned somewhere, what you've understood somewhere else. So don't be lazy. Use the technology. Use the AI to help you have a better understanding, so that you would not be taken advantage of. And I'm you know I'm going to I'm comfortable in the space of investments. So I'm talking about these things, but it can apply to anything that you get involved in this life.
I just love that advice, Marlon, because it just makes such perfect sense. Because even before we had the technology, there were bad actors. If you
Yes,
think of Bernard Madoff and how many
yes,
people he was able to rip off. So basically, what you are telling people is they can use generative AI to
yeah,
help them in making some of these decisions.
yeah,
So you said it can be used for good. Some people would also use it for bad. So
but
be alert, be
yeah.
aware, and
And then
ask questions.
the other thing too is, talk to other people, talk to your investment advisor. Let them tell you, or speak to you about what is happening out there. I mean, you always got to be careful. Some people speak to you from the basis of what they are selling, you
Yes.
know, and they might buy talk
So
something
cross
else.
check. Cross-reference
cross-check.
other
You
people. Yes.
get information from all sources and take your time in dealing with your financial resources. Don't make quick decisions. And if somebody's pushing you to make a decision in a hurry, you know that's to me that's a first red flag. Something is wrong here. Why are they pushing me? Why are they rushing me to make this decision?
Yes. Well, the half hour is gone, Marlon. And
It's gone already?
we were able to discuss so much that I think is truly useful for people to pay attention to, especially at the directors level, because you have a fiduciary responsibility for looking after the interest of your organization. But I think you gave some excellent advice for persons on the whole and
Yeah.
how to manage with issues. Because even as you spoke, it reminded me of this Hollywood movie, Beekeeper, I think it was,
Yeah.
where
Yeah, I remember that one.
yeah, so someone can call you on the phone and they can make it seem so urgent for you to make
Yeah.
a decision and
Yes.
your passwords and so. But learning that the world also has bad actors and to be vigilant. And
Yeah.
I really appreciated the way you have said how you can use the AI to
Yeah.
prevent from being ripped off by bad actors, because you can ask the AI
Yeah.
about things that are happening and unfolding around you. Well, Marlon is going to be one of our panelists for Governance Week this year. So, Marlon, I so appreciated you taking the time to share some of your thoughts with us today. And
Yeah.
look forward to having you during Governance Week, which is from June 22nd to 27th, 2025. Our theme, Governance in the Age of Generative AI. So
Yeah.
join us again next week. We will continue with Governance Live. We have several guests lined up already. And as we lead up to what is our signature event here at the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute. Thank
Yeah.
you for joining us for this live stream, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you
Bye
very
now.
much. Thank you. Bye-bye.